So today we'll be diving into some recent updates in the bio.DAO ecosystem, as well as kind of covering some really amazing bio.DAOs that will be part of this first cohort. To kind of kick it off, would love to share a few different updates on some recent events. So over the past few days, welcome to everyone that's been joining. There have been some really exciting events going on. We've had a strong presence in Berlin at the ETH Berlin Hackathon over the past weekend, and our dev team made some really incredible progress expanding on IP NFTs to include fractionalization, really enabling that cooperation between with this. It's really kind of core to what Molecule is doing, and now with this bio and all of you. Ultimately, at the core of this, it's really enabling the distribution of different rights between all of those different cohorts of people with a specific focus on patients as well. We'll be pinning a handful of different tweets and links up to the top of this space, so definitely be on the lookout for that, where you'll be able to see a demo of that shortly. All right, I just got a message that I might be breaking up a little bit. Heinrich or any of the other speakers, if that's the case, definitely please jump in. Welcome to everybody else who has joined over the past few minutes. Really excited to have you here. Another exciting update on Molecule side of things, as well as on behalf of the broader DeSci ecosystem, is an article that was published in Nature Biotechnology recently, really kind of covering a wide range of the different bio.DAOs in this space. So definitely go check that out to get a sense of how DeSci is really kind of expanding into the general conversation. So many different people represented in the audience on this call right now are mentioned in that article and are doing absolutely incredible work. So please check out who else is all listening. This is our community. This is DeSci. So connect with them. We're only able to make it as much as kind of our collaboration allows us to. With that said, I would love to invite Eric up here to chat a bit about DeSci Boston. I'll give him a few moments to connect. Eric, you were one of the leaders of DeSci Boston over this weekend as well. Would love to hear some thoughts, updates, recap from the experience there.
Sure, I would love to. Can you hear me, Aaron?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone in this call who came out to DeSci Boston this past Sunday. It was an absolutely incredible event filled with demos and user sessions and dinners and breakfasts and just generally wonderful community vibes. Always love any of these conferences where people come out and show support for decentralized science as a whole. So this was the first official DeSci conference in the US that was focused exclusively on decentralized science. Normally it's kind of tailgating off of an Ethereum conference, or there's some other event that's happening right next door which helps us gain traction. For just a DeSci conference, in the sake of a DeSci conference, I think we had close to 250 participants with no standalone event, and that is absolutely amazing. Talking with our sponsor from MIT, who helped us get the venue, Sam, who is tagged in the Twitter thread on this page, He said that this was one of the most amazing events he had ever been a part of. It felt very much like early Bitcoin, early SynBio conferences, where people were enthusiastic and genuinely cared about the problems that were being solved, felt that they could really make a difference. Definitely want to give a huge shout out to Paul and the amazing presentation and user session that he gave throughout. And also thank you to the entire Molecule ecosystem for sponsoring the happy hour afterwards at the Cambridge Brewing Company. For anyone who is interested to, I guess, learn more, I posted a thread which show a lot of the different pictures of people interacting in the event. So you can kind of see some of the enthusiasm and the traction for yourself. All of the resources from the conference are available online in the Google Drive that's been posted around the DeSci Boston Telegram, but I can also post it here once I'm done speaking. And as a kind of a public good, James and I have taken a good bit of time to go through past conferences to collect and aggregate all of the artifacts from each individual conference. So that's Denver, that's Berlin, that's Amsterdam, and then we have created Boston in one singular place as well, and are looking to work with the Science Commons Initiative on enabling a couple public goods like a communal Webflow, some communal Google Drive storage, a communal Typeform freemium account that can help other people host conferences significantly easier on their own, where we can basically just have a template of how to organize a conference with tools embedded so that anyone else who's continuing to help community build in DeSci can do so easier. Excited to welcome Aaron and Susanna onto the Boston 2023 organizing committee. I think we're going to have a lot of great traction, some great talks and conversations, and I'm looking forward to all of the demos that the Molecule ecosystem and some of the other DAOs in this call can give in 2023. So yeah, I think that's pretty much my update. Aaron, is there anything you think I missed out on?
No, that was a wonderful update. And just for everyone who wasn't able to attend in person, there's a pinned tweet up above just highlighting some of the different pictures and all of the wonderful speakers once again that were there. One of my favorite kind of outcomes or conversations that came out of this weekend is just the excitement to continue hosting other DeSci events in other cities. So if people have interest in doing that, definitely reach out to both Eric or Vincent who are on this call right now. They're leading some different wonderful initiatives to really help make DeSci events in real life as easy as possible for just across the world in general. So would love to connect with people from different cities who have ideas and help kind of funnel you together to get more of this energy continuing in the future as well. So thanks so much, Eric, for that update, and so looking forward to next year. As we kind of build off of all this energy that's being generated both in person as well as online, there's been a bit of focus lately across people from a variety of different orgs, and especially inspired by some of the leaders here at Molecule to harness some of that energy and apply it to the next level by creating bio.xyz. So as I'm Paul and PsyDAO, I'd love to have you give everyone an overview of what is bio.xyz and why did you kind of start bringing this to life? At their house right now, they have been having some spotty Wi-Fi, so we'll continue giving them a few moments, but if anyone is at the house with them, definitely invite them to kind of come share some of their different thoughts. Vincent, would love to have you share as well.
Yeah, so maybe I can jump until Paul's internet works. Yeah, I think the goal
Yes.
with bio.xyz is to just support biotech DAO and DeSci builders kind of in a really hands-on way. So also to help share kind of like all learnings from supporting VitaDAO and really growing this ecosystem of decentralized biotech funding science in a new way, and also connecting those builders and efforts with each other and helping on things where people might not want to focus their time on, but kind of need to, in a sense, like from legal to tokenomics. There are like a lot of, I think, almost overhead areas necessary to get a BioDAO off the ground. And of course, I think the most interesting and usually majority of the community is made of scientists, but actually, yeah, a lot of it is also just making sure that the governance frameworks and the legal setup and all of those things are sound, that they actually have like a good foundation to build on. And I think the goal is really to just make it much easier for people to create biotech DAOs and get also, of course, funding to get their efforts off the ground. Yeah, and of course, at the heart, I think also since like Tyler and Paul can add to it, since Molecule started to explore kind of different mechanisms to fund science, and different ways of crypto mechanism design to explore this. I think the BioDAO model has been the most fruitful thus far with VitaDAO. So yeah, I think we really want to just like enable kind of more scientific funding that way. Maybe.
Awesome. I was able to catch most of that. Hopefully, everyone else was able to catch the tail end. If you want to just recap that very ending, Vincent, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, so like I think the more like concrete steps were really to just enable BioDAO builders to help them on every aspect with the things we learned from VitaDAO, especially from legal tokenomics to other areas. Yeah, but I think also for other listeners in the area, feel free to check out on bio.xyz, kind of like more details. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in. I finally fixed my internet. Sincere apologies about that, everyone on the call. Yeah, I'm really excited to welcome all of you, especially our first cohort members, ValleyDAO, HairDAO, PsyDAO, and AthenaDAO. Can't wait to hear from all of you. But also, yeah, from my side, a huge welcome to our community today and everyone that's on the call. And everyone that's excited about bringing this mission of decentralized biotech to life. Yeah, I think it's been really incredible to see the growth of this community. I think the DeSci community more broadly, but then also the decentralized biotech community over the past year. It really feels like being really at the forefront of an entirely new movement. Together with all of you. And our goal with bio.xyz is really kind of like to open up the playbook of all of our learnings from VitaDAO over the past year. I think when we launched VitaDAO, I think that the term DeSci actually only started emerging probably around November. I think when we saw first signs that VitaDAO's model was starting to work, essentially attracting more and more scientists and more researchers to the DAO and actually funding first projects with universities. And I think that's now given rise to an entirely new sector, which I think we can loosely define as biotech DAO. So what is our goal with bio.xyz fundamentally? I think building VitaDAO. So for us at Molecule, building VitaDAO is really a kind of the culmination of almost like more than two and a half years of work and research and trying to approach this very kind of ambitious goal of trying to decentralize drug development and kind of build a more equitable system for patients, for researchers, to engage with each other around meaningful therapeutics. And So I personally spent a lot of time in the Web3 space and have seen kind of the rise of DAOs over the year. I was maybe there's anyone else on this call. Actually, maybe Vincent perhaps, but some of you might remember the DAO from 2016. And it was humbling to kind of see that first approach blow up spectacularly on chain. And then I think in Web3 land, or like in the crypto community, there was a lot of apprehension towards DAOs and decentralized organizations. There's actually a really great post from Vitalik that I think was published, that he published about 2 days ago, which also prominently featured ValleyDAO, essentially really going back to like the roots and asking what are decentralized organizations, and how can they optimally function. So over the past couple of years, we've seen the rise of then I think Moloch DAO really I think showed again that we can actually have functioning on-chain organizations in a safe way. And then over the past 2 years, we've seen organizations like the LAO emerge, or Flamingo DAO, that increasingly focus on a very specific kind of areas in Web3. Flamingo DAO, for example, if some of you are not familiar, is essentially a DAO and community that is building a portfolio of NFTs. And a lot of that gave us inspiration to build ValleyDAO, and we refurbished some of those governance frameworks and tokenomics frameworks. And then I think over the past year, we've seen this almost like explosion of different DAOs focusing on maintaining DeFi protocols, focusing on climate change. I've seen DAOs that are like trying to purchase homes, essentially abandoned homes in Japan, and create co-living communities. And so I think over the past year and a half, we've seen this like anything is possible. I think culminating in things like Constitution DAO, for example. But fundamentally, I think building a DAO is extremely hard. So building in Web3 is very hard. And then I think building a really functioning DAO that is not just a vague idea and like a couple of people in a Discord and maybe a multi-sig, building a functioning, sustainable DAO is really hard. DAOs are not like startups, and Web3 is really unlike Web2. And so I think specifically if you're a scientist that's new to Web3 and that doesn't have the kind of the privilege of having all of this context of how DAOs have evolved over time, I think it can be really confusing. Navigating even which layer 1 to build on, Ethereum versus Solana, then decentralized exchanges, the legal and regulatory frameworks around DAOs, then going into tokenomics and kind of the newest trends in DeFi. I think it can be really overwhelming and quite hard. And also, I think many Web3 communities, but due to their anonymous nature, cannot be very, I think, welcoming if you come from a, let's say, more traditional non-tech background, which I think is true for many scientists. So building a DAO is hard. And then on the other side, building in biotech and healthcare is also really hard. You need significant domain area expertise, scientific network, understanding how IP and commercialization actually works to bring therapeutics to patients. And so our fundamental, I think, mission for bio.xyz is to make that easier and help everyone that wants to kind of build a decentralized organization like this. So our goal is really to bridge those two worlds and to open up the playbook in terms of how these organizations can emerge, and provide financial support in the term of a grant that can convert into token holding in that DAO later on, but more importantly, to really provide the human capital and the expertise and the frameworks to make building a biotech DAO easy. And yeah, maybe I'll stop there. Would love to give the word to Cider at this point, if his internet permits.
I'm hoping my internet permits. Can everyone hear me? It's been a little bit of a disaster internet-wise. We're staying at a hacker house in Cambridge together with where the internet is not working. So I'm just on mobile phone. Cool. Yeah. So thanks for that, Paul. I think maybe just to go in a little bit more deeply into like the specifics of the program and how we're envisioning this for anyone who's interested in joining as a contributor, or for anyone who's interested in joining a bio.DAO. So as Paul mentioned, or building a bio.DAO, as Paul mentioned, there are a lot of complex nuances when you're building a DAO, and there's a lot of complex nuances when you're trying to build a successful biotech organization. And the sort of values that we imbued ValleyDAO with were really around trying to figure out how to successfully mimic successful execution patterns in biotech while leveraging the sort of network effect and decentralization that's intrinsic to a decentralized autonomous organization. And fortunately, there were a lot of really strong learnings about where to decentralize, where not to, how to run operations, how to implement governance frameworks, how to look at token incentives and distributions and all of these things. I think there's also a lot of room to iterate and improve on. And the way that we see this working, especially with this initial cohort, is really sort of a almost user research gathering and really trying to work directly with the cohort to understand like what are the needs of these bio-DAOs as they begin to implement different models, as they explore different, let's say, incentive frameworks, and increasingly move to launch with a vibrant academic community and the ability to fund research. And so the way that we're trying to structure that is with an 18-week, fairly intensive program covering everything from the regulatory to governance to tokenomics to out licensing, integration with the IP and FT framework, and really making sure that all of these DAOs are compliant with sort of the latest.
I think we lost you.
Tyler, I think you're actually on mute.
Sorry, how much of that did you guys catch?
Most of it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, yeah. My internet keeps dropping out when it does that. It mutes me. I'm sorry about that. What I was saying is that through the process of really interacting with universities, dealing with the out licensing process, all of the sort of nuance that I think a lot of new founders that are coming into the space might not have a handle on, how to talk about Web3, like how to actually pitch to researchers in a way that isn't confusing and makes sense. We really want to help everyone understand the nuances through this 18-week program where we'll try to basically build courses, have a lot of direct hands-on support, and over time, really try to build a community of contributors with specific domain expertise in a lot of these areas that can move between organizations and really help steward, individual organizations to launch based on the domain expertise that they have. And so, like I said, this is experimental initially. I think there's going to be a lot of learnings with the first cohort that we hope to build on and develop and increasingly refine the program. But it's something that I'm personally really excited about because, as Paul mentioned, there's been so much movement lately and energy and like we saw it even just I missed a good part of DeSci Boston, but even just chatting to people at the dinner the following day, just seeing like the sort of optimism and ideological alignment that lives in the space. I think it's really would be really excellent if all of these DAOs that are sort of coming to life now are able to make it to the point of launch and grow really vibrant academic communities. So we're super excited to hopefully be able to contribute a small part to their success and really make sure that they have all the resources, help, and access to talent and capital, for example, that they need to be able to get off the ground. Sorry about the internet issue, guys.
Absolutely. So kind of just as we start hearing from some of the different DAOs in this first cohort, ultimately bio.xyz is really positioned to take some of the learnings from ValleyDAO, from the broader DeSci ecosystem, and support new promising bio-DAOs in the space and across all of these domains that they need to really thrive and be successful, ultimately really improving kind of the scientific and eventually medical landscape for us all. So one DAO that Molecule has been in collaboration with and supporting for a little while now is PsyDAO, and now we're able to take this into a more formal capacity as one of the members of this first cohort. So PsyDAO, would love to have you give an overview of what PsyDAO is.
Hey there. Thanks, Aaron. Great to be on the call. Welcome, everyone. This is Matt DeCausin. I'm on the core team of PsyDAO. I also see that Adam, who's also on the core team, is here. Really happy to be here and to celebrate the launch of bio.xyz. as Paul and Tyler both spoke to, we feel like very fortunate to be able to be part of this initial cohort. As we were all kind of joking about, we were also joking about this on our town hall, the PsyDAO town hall just before this. Nothing quite so ambitious as wanting to build a community that supports psychonauts, build a DAO, as well as launch, an initiative to really decentralize the science around psychedelics and to build a future where psychedelics are both decentralized and democratized in terms of access and the research and the science that goes behind them. So it means, I think when you're doing something this ambitious, it means so much to surround yourself not only with excellence, but also to find the others who are just as much like out there with radical visionary ideas, but also have like the hands-on learnings and expertise from having done this before. So we feel very fortunate to be part of bio.xyz and to be along with a cohort of others who are also equally ambitious in what they're trying to build. So yeah, thank you. It's really good to be here.
Yes, we are very excited to see where PsyDAO is going in the future. Adam, if you're available, do you have any additional thoughts you'd like to share?
Sure, absolutely. I'll just kind of follow up or highlight that. We're really excited to utilize the IP NFT. There's really nothing quite like it that has ever existed in the world of intellectual property. Intellectual property goes back thousands of years, sometimes back to Napoleonic law or even Roman law. So usually an intellectual property is held in a holding company that is private, illiquid, and not transparent. So the ability to even add transparency and primary and secondary market liquidity to intellectual property is a potential huge step forward in forms of community access and availability to that intellectual property. And then by adding on layers of governance, it actually creates an environment where normal people can have a say in the ethics and the ethics of how that intellectual property is utilized in the world. And that is really, truly, truly revolutionary in its own way. So I just wanted, people say, well, why is PsyDAO, so keen to use the IP NFT and participate in bio.xyz? It's really Molecule that is kind of brought that concept to the forefront. And we're incredibly excited to be, collaborating with such stellar intellectuals and executors in the category.
Amazing. Where are the best places for people to find out more about PsyDAO?
Definitely, you can find us on the Twitters. You can find us there. We're pretty active there, but also you can go to PsyDAO.io, our website. If you're interested in getting involved, we're actively kind of building out the different work streams and working groups. So there is a get involved call to action on the website. And you can also sign up for, we're on Discord, obviously, can't be in Web3 without Discord. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, which is also highlighted both on the website and on our Twitter profile. Did I miss anything, Adam?
No, that sounds great. Our working group stewards are adding a few people to the work groups each week. So if you fill out the Airtable and tag yourself where your skills align, you'll get in touch with our stewards, and that will get you into our onboarding funnel. We're growing slowly and organically. We've got a couple thousand people in the Discord currently, and probably 10x less than that probably 20 to 25 people, actively engaged, day in and day out. So, and that number's growing pretty quickly. So look forward to having you all join us.
Yeah, I guess the one other thing I might put on there is that we've also participating in GR15, the current Gitcoin grant. We've had over almost 120, I think, people participate. And, even if you give $1, it will be matched with, I think, up to $150 right now. And this is also something we've had great support with from Molecule and from the whole team there in terms of launching and supporting the GR15 grant. So very happy to see that, and I'd love it for those of you that feel moved. Please participate there. And if you haven't already, there's an amazing article that was highlighted earlier in Nature. If you haven't checked that out, please check that out. And we also have an article where PsyDAO was featured in Microdose, which you can also find on our Twitter profile. But super excited to be here today. And thank you again to our peers, and looking forward to hearing more from the other DAOs who are speaking next.
Yes, such a great recap of all of the work you're doing, kind of what you're working towards at PsyDAO. For everyone tuning in, you can also check out bio.xyz and the bio.xyz Discord, and we can help funnel you towards these other DAOs as well, and the right ways to really connect with them in a meaningful capacity. So next up, I would love to chat a bit with the HairDAO team. And if you can just share for anyone who might be new to HairDAO, what is HairDAO and how did you really kind of come about bringing this DAO to life?
Yeah, definitely. Andrew Bax here, one of the founders and members of the core team. So HairDAO is an open source corporation whose sole mission is to solve hair loss. There are several forms of hair loss, but our focus is on androgenetic alopecia. The short version is AGA, which accounts for about 95% of all hair loss cases. So really the majority of hair loss. And to take a quick step back, we believe the most impactful DAOs will be those that solve the biggest mismatch between supply and demand for research and development, R&D. Supply and demand of both human and financial capital, but we found that human capital tends to follow financial capital. In hair, the supply of AGA research is incredibly low, especially with regards to early stage research, which is the most important part of the R&D process if we want to find new treatments. There's less than about $5 million allocated annually by all government agencies globally, so from the US to China, to early stage AGA research, which, if you're familiar with the size of like the NIH's budget and other federal agencies' budgets is beyond minuscule. And then, so usually in early stage research, if the government's lacking, sometimes you'll have philanthropy step up and take the plate. But for whatever reason, maybe it's just not wanting to be associated publicly with AGA, there really aren't any large philanthropic efforts at all. In fact, there's almost nothing. So we really have a case where, in terms of supply of early stage R&D, there almost really is next to nothing. But in terms of demand, we at least believe that demand is enormous, both in the number of people impacted and the degree to which AGA can impact someone. So 66% of people will suffer from hair loss at some point in their lives. Many of those who suffer from the condition, especially at a younger age, know that they would pay a ton of money for full heads of hair for the rest of their lives. So an anecdote that we have with many of our friends and say ourselves is that we would buy a new head of hair before buying a Tesla, if it were possible. We know because we are one of those people. Our core members are basically all people who have dealt with it, different types of hair loss, but all impacted nonetheless. So that's really our core thesis, is bridging the gap, what we think is a ridiculously big gap between the supply of early stage AGA R&D and the demand for it. But while we're an R&D centric organization, we're also composed of multidisciplinary professionals from all backgrounds, really. The world's leading hair loss researchers, engineers, content creators, really anyone who's talented and cares about the condition. So if you're interested at all in solving hair loss, please come join us. We stand by Molecule's belief that much of the world's scientific talent is untapped. So much information is available online to teach yourself about any medical condition, but hair loss specifically. So yeah, anyone on this call, if they care enough, they can make a difference.
Andrew, on the HairDAO account, do you have any other additions
No. So sorry, this is Andrew Rubin, also the other co-founder of HairDAO. I think Back summed it up perfectly. I would just say, for people who are interested in getting involved, you could follow us on Twitter, HairDAO_. You could go to our website, HairDAO.xyz, or you could just join our Discord, the invite of which is on our Twitter home screen. And hop in the Discord, and we've got a bunch of working groups up and running. But if you reach out to either Andy1 or Averbs123 in the Discord, we'd love to get in touch and see how you can't get to working with us.
Amazing. And for anyone who has some aspirations down the line to eventually start a bio.DAO as well, a really great way to learn some of the complexities of building these out effectively is starting by contributing to some of these other DAOs highlighted on this call today, as well as in the audience in general. And we'd love to really kind of help support in kind of helping you learn some of those skills, so you can solve the different missions and problems you really care about as well. As we keep moving forward through some other DAOs in our first cohort, ValleyDAO, would love to have you share what ValleyDAO is all about.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Erin, for co-organizing this with the rest of the bio.xyz crew and Molecule. And it's really cool to see so many people here as well. I think we're like 100 people on this call, and just the enthusiasm about so many important research areas. So my name is Albert Annis. I'm one of the core members of ValleyDAO. And ValleyDAO, you can see it as the DeSci DAO that aims to fund and democratize research IP in the field of synthetic biology. And the research scope we're targeting is actually not that of patients, as you conventionally would see in the DeSci space. We're actually looking at research that can alleviate climate burden and food security. So to give you an idea of what SynBio can do, so today researchers and full-scale companies are engineering microorganisms to synthesize things such as biomaterials that can become textiles, real synthetic beef and dairy that could completely disrupt the agricultural industry, for example, sustainable fuels, replacing those derived from fossil-based oils, and finally, fats and oils for food, which could, for example, remove our reliance on the cruel palm oil industry. So with the research that we found, we're looking to create tools and biological parts that anyone can license and use in their research, in forming a startup, or even for a large-scale corporation that would like to integrate some of these parts into their tech stack. So that's a little bit about ValleyDAO.
Amazing. Really, really excited to have kind of this whole realm of DeSci also represented in this first cohort, and hoping that ValleyDAO can really serve as a great example in the expansion of what the DeSci ecosystem can look like as well. And excited to have you be part of this first bio.xyz cohort. Are there any really good ways for people to stay up to date with all of the work you're doing, or how should people who are interested reach out?
Yeah, there are, of course, various ways. And, I think the best way to stay updated about things is, joining the community itself, and joining one of the working groups. That's like the, level 5 the maximum level of involvement, and, being updated on what's happening. But other than that, you can follow us on Twitter. We're about to also launch a newsletter, a monthly newsletter to update people as well. So on our website, there is a form that you can fill out if you want to join any of the working groups, and you don't really have to fill out that form. You can also just show up at one of the calls that are open for anyone to join. So yeah, those are some ways that people can get involved.
So true. I think that's a great point, that if you're tuning in and are interested in this space, please just show up, and there are different opportunities to be able to get involved. And really kind of find that alignment that you might be looking for. So with that, we have one last bio.DAO that we are excited to be part of this first cohort. AthenaDAO, Laura, would love to have you share about the incredible work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Erin. My name is Laura Minchini, and I am the core lead for AthenaDAO. And the first thing that I want to say is thank you so much to Paul, Vincent, and Tyler for believing that reproductive health funding is so important and for believing in our mission. I think that they're great leaders in DeSci. I know from the time I met them at DeSci Berlin, and they had me as an MC there, that I wanted to work more with the molecule team. Everybody in the team is amazing. Beata, thank you so much for the encouragement and for being a real advocate for women, pushing women into the space. And our mission is to actually fund reproductive health research. I've heard a lot about IP innovation, which Molecule is doing amazing, but we are like one step behind. It's not even about democratization. It's about even getting to the IP part, because I say it many times, reproductive health research and women's health research is criminally underfunded. In 2018's NIH budget, women's health was less than 15% of it, and reproductive aging is even less. And we are half of the population, so it's a mystery. Somebody asked me yesterday, why is it this way? I'm like, I don't know, but it is. So our core mission is to get more funding, to use the tools that Web3 and blockchain and some of the amazing things that we're learning from ValleyDAO, to put that to use into getting more research done in reproductive health and longevity. And I'm very excited to be part of this first core team, first cohort, and I would love to also contribute to the growth of bio.xyz. I think one thing that we can do is try to push more women into DeSci, more people of color, and really push in the diversity and inclusion. It's super important that we have people that don't look like us participate, so that we can find the gaps. With that said, for people to join, they can. We have our link tree on our Twitter. Please join us. There's a community submission form. There is our first convocation for funding form, and also, I just wanted to say that we already had the honor of appearing at an academic conference at the first reproductive longevity conference in Singapore, and representing DeSci, speaking about what is possible with DAOs, with decentralized science, and I'm very proud to be part of this movement. So hopefully a lot of you can join us in our mission, and we do not discriminate. We accept everybody. We're going to fund, whether it's male or a female, we want to fund reproductive health research, and it doesn't have to do with just being a woman. It affects all of society. Lastly, if you could help us get to our goal of 100 fundees for our first Gitcoin grant round, I would really appreciate it. We're going to do a reproductive health report as a public good, just to also, it's a focus on the general public, and it's a two-tier mission. One is to speak about the science of reproductive health, and two, to show the impact that decentralized science can have and to everybody's life, not just people that are into crypto or blockchain. Thank you so much, and I look forward to growing this community with all of you guys and girls and everybody else.
Thank you so much, Laura. Really excited to have you and the entire AthenaDAO be part of this first cohort. I think you touched on a really important piece in here about how you're excited to give back to the other bio.DAOs as well and really contribute to the larger ecosystem. And Paul, I would love to have you elaborate on how that's baked into what bio.xyz is, if your internet permits.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thank you so much, Erin. And yeah, it's really heartwarming to hear from all the different teams and DAOs and the ideas and ideals that they're pursuing. Laura, I think to reiterate your point again, I think it's so important that we enable this particular kind of subset of Web3 or this space to become really inclusive and diverse. because I think that's been a major shortcoming of kind of crypto in the past. And I think we have a big opportunity here to kind of change that for the good. So yeah, that's a mission that's really close to my heart as well. Maybe zooming out a little bit, also just I would love to just briefly kind of outline what a longer term vision for bio.xyz is. So we really consider this like a petri dish for DeSci experimentation and for DeSci infrastructure. So both placing a focus on helping teams and building, like helping co-build DAOs in specific therapeutic areas, but also helping co-build DAOs that are actually building like the base level of DeSci infrastructure, where I think there's still so much to build. So either if you're building in a therapeutic area specific, or if you feel like, hey, there's this base layer principle that's still missing. For example, how we rope patients into these communities in a better way. I'm a big fan of Fleming Protocol. Shout out to them that are trying to go at that nut. Or how we bring more laboratories and scientists in a generalized way in which LabDAO is working on, which we're also huge supporters of. But zooming out a little bit, so becoming a petri dish for DeSci innovation. And then also our goal with bio.xyz is really to become a DAO of DAOs. So a builder community that can together birth new DAOs and essentially pursue these ideas and help its existing cohort members, but also essentially future cohorts accelerate this innovation. And so typically, or the way that we've kind of designed this is that for the bio.xyz DAO itself, for the grant that it gives out, and for essentially all the support and frameworks to receive a kind of, if there is a token to be launched, a governance token with these DAOs, to essentially receive a share of that token economy. But then our goal is for that token economy, for those tokens to really be collectively governed by all bio token holders. This is something that we're still actively building out. But our vision, or our hope, and kind of our dream for bio.xyz is really to become this like meta governance layer, where the DAOs that are joining bio.xyz are also incentivized through having kind of cross exposure and governance rights in other DAOs to essentially really collaboratively build together and create network effects between these communities. And that's just something that we've seen. It's actually, this is one huge learning from ValleyDAO, that we've seen many members actually, and some of the, I think the most, some of the DAOs that are actually in this cohort now, having worked in ValleyDAO, having kind of witnessed that community come to life, and then having said, hey, what if we do this in synthetic biology, for example, like ValleyDAO, and taking kind of the learnings that they made in ValleyDAO and implementing it in their own DAO is extremely valuable. And so hope is also, for example, ValleyDAO also to become a big part of the bio.xyz network, and each DAO to essentially help the next generation of DAOs that come after them. And we hope to implement that as a base layer incentive where everyone kind of gets to be exposed to the other DAOs. And then the vision is for bio.xyz as a whole to potentially become this index on the bio.DAO space as a whole, which we feel will also make it much easier, let's say, for potential funders to get involved in the space. For example, many of the investors that we speak to that are maybe on the Web3 side, they can have a difficult time making a decision whether to fund, let's say, a DAO in a very specific therapeutic area, simply because they don't have the context of like making a decision on whether to, like, they simply wouldn't have deep knowledge, expertise in women's reproductive health or in maybe in synthetic biology. There's still a lot of, I think, education that we need to do for investors, both in the Web3 community, but also for funders beyond. And I think it'll still be, for example, a while until, let's say, more biotech and traditional academic institutions can really start funding projects in the space. And so we hope for bio.xyz also to kind of play a bridge building a role in that. And maybe this is a good opportunity. I'll hand it back to you, Aaron, to kind of also dive into questions from the community and let everyone kind of share their thoughts.
Yeah. So I would love to invite anyone from the audience who might have some questions about bio.xyz or any of the bio-DAOs up here and kind of what they're hoping to achieve while in this program up to request to speak. If not, or as people are raising their hand there. Okay, we have a couple of requests coming in.
While we're waiting, can I just give a quick shout out for an event that we have in 2 hours? Erin, we have Dr. Jennifer Garrison, who leads the Consortium for Reproductive Longevity, joining us on AthenaDAO's Twitter space to discuss her work and also how decentralized science and DAOs can actually help and support the research that obviously she is doing and that other researchers in the space would like to get funded. She has a lot of great ideas. So it's a kind of like call to action for the community in general to come and listen. It's not just about reproductive health, but also why she thinks that DeSci and DAOs could really help close some of the gaps in the funding that obviously are in place right now. Thanks.
Amazing. Yes, for anyone interested in that, please check out the pinned tweet up above. DeFi by Labs. Your question?
Hey, yeah. So I recently just, I guess, discovered some of you. I've known of Molecule DAO for a while, and I guess I just wanted. I spoke with some people from ValleyDAO yesterday because I'm more SynBio oriented, and I guess I was curious, like, what's the platform needed to start it? Like, would you be able to help forming a DAO, or do you need to come in with a DAO already made? Additionally, I guess, what do you want out of people? What would you want out of a DAO? Like, because I'm assuming it's some sort of symbiotic thing going on between DAOs and biotech DAO.
Absolutely. Paul, feel free to jump in on this. So one of the really kind of powerful aspects of bio.xyz is we're able to help bring to the table experts and leaders who have experience across tokenomics, across marketing, across community, across governance, across all of these different domains to really help you craft and build this beautiful foundation for your bio-DAO. And with this, it can help take you to the next level. So to be a competitive applicant for our next cohort, having some foundation, and that can look different for different types of biolabs or bio-DAOs, having that foundation can then give us a playground to help support you to get to that next level. Please reach out with more specific questions. And Paul, if you're able to share any additional thoughts, please do so.
Yeah, I guess just to add on to that, who would I contact specifically, or who at Biotech DAO should I DM or email or whatever?
Yeah, so you can go to the bio.xyz Discord. That's one place, or just DM Molecule or bio.xyz individually as well. And we can help get you kind of directed into the right conversation depending on where you're at and what your needs are. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, maybe if Vince and Tyler want to jump in, or anyone else. Also, Hamza, I saw you quickly had your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I was having some tech issues. Hamza from ValleyDAO here. I just wanted to highlight one of the crowning achievements of bio.DAO, and I think Paul kind of alluded to that. So it's basically the preservation of tacit knowledge, right? So I'm also on the VitaDAO team. I usually learn stuff at VitaDAO, apply at ValleyDAO. I apply stuff at ValleyDAO, talk to other DAOs and help them, or they help me. So I think there's a lot of tacit knowledge, composable sort of modular knowledge that is being created in all DAOs that at least I'm looking at, especially in DeSci space. And a lot of these solutions are replicable, just like science. And so when bio.xyz is putting together a platform. And, people were talking about how you can, create DeSci events, with less friction once you have this platform up and running. But one of the things is basically the preservation of tacit knowledge, and also composable modular solutions in some database where you have these solutions and people with those skills and knowledge. You go, you talk to them, you learn something, and you just do things more efficiently. There's no need to reinvent the wheel everywhere you go. And being part of couple DAOs, I basically do exactly that, and it just increases your efficiency astronomically. I think this is a not so highlighted fact of bio.xyz.
Thank you for highlighting that. Yes, it really takes kind of that ecosystem to help support all of the work being done in that space. So really appreciate you kind of emphasizing that point. All right, blockchain Web3 copywriter. I know you came up here before. Did you have a quick question as we kind of near the end of the hour?
Yeah, I do. Hi everyone. I don't know whether my audio is good.
Yep, can hear you.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to thank the Molecule team for organizing this space. It's been very enlightening about DeSci and biotech. So the question I have, it's kind of a general question directed to the DAOs that talked. Are there any opportunities in biotech and DeSci for copywriters? Like I am a copywriter, and must I have medical experience or expertise, maybe in academia or in general? So that's my question. Thank you.
I might be able to speak on behalf of all BioDAOs in saying that getting the word out about the work being done through written, audio, visual types of formats is absolutely a needed skill set in this space. So there's definitely opportunity to get involved in that type of capacity.
Yeah, I can also just chime in there and second that, because I know, like, for example, at HairDAO, we always sort of talk about the flywheel between making better investments helps us grow our community, and then growing our community helps us make better investments. And so to the extent that copywriting can help us grow the community, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. All right. Ryan, if you have a quick question, we can take that real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate everyone on the great work. I mean, this is absolutely fascinating. So for those that don't know me, I was a co-founder of IndieBio, and I've been involved with a bunch of like biotech accelerators and other things. And so, what bio.xyz is doing is like absolutely fascinating. Obviously, ValleyDAO really was a pioneer, and Molecule were pioneers. I wanted to just ask a question around, I'm in the crypto space and I'm in the biotech space, but the two very rarely combine for me. And so what I'm trying to understand, I'm trying to get my head around, outside of just intellectual property plays, what are the concepts and ideas around building these DAOs into actual companies, or is that not the point? I would love like some perspective from someone who has kind of a vision for where this goes next, because I think it's super interesting. But one of the big challenges that I see is this a company? Is this a community? How do you build something that others outside of the crypto world can invest in?
Vincent, do you want to take that? Or Tyler, but I think Tyler's still struggling with his internet. Yeah, Vincent?
I think we're waiting for someone to come on stage. While we're waiting, I'll just add a little bit more thought on that, which is, there's a lot of money out in the fiat world. And it's how do we think about bringing that money into something that's investable? Is it a C corp? Is it an LLC? How can we structure this so that it's not just dependent on crypto investments?
Yeah, great question.
Crypto
and I think in relevant, like in general, like a really relevant discussion. I think actually what Paul said earlier, like Vitalik made a great blog post yesterday on kind of like why we need DAOs, and like also on like some of the latest DAO critiques. And he actually brings up the example of VitaDAO and why it should be a DAO and not a corporation. I think the power really, and to your concrete question of like what could happen next, is let's say a VitaDAO having like a broad research portfolio might actually help incubate kind of biotechs. So for example, there's already the first biotechs emerging out of VitaDAO that are now, of course, like on a traditional fundraising path of like traditional biotech. But I think the power is really, of course, for like biotech talent, for biotech like early stage builders, that you have this huge community of like researchers of research to fund, and could make a proposal to the DAO to like license out some of the research into your startup, or to create a startup with specific research coming out of a DAO. And of course, like a DAO can also, like in VitaDAO's case, have like an arm's length agreement with like foundation that holds equity. I think to the other question, our goal is really also to bring in more capital into the bio-DAO space via, of course, different kind of like structures. But I think ultimately, of course, there is a lot of capital in crypto and Web3, which I think is just getting started to be aware of bio-DAOs. And I think actually that's like, I think the meta point is like in the sense that like it's very easy for like trillions of crypto money to flow into NFTs or into DeFi tokens. It was kind of like impossible to flow into science and scientific funding in a novel way. So yeah, but I totally, to your point, think it could have like a lot of different pathways. And I think like bio-DAOs helping to spin out or to sell their IP would be one successful one.
But super helpful. Thank you, Vincent.
But would also
I know.
Would be curious what you think on this, like in the sense of like what the possibilities like of say VitaDAO allow for, and what you think could be also novel ways to develop the research, even potentially inside the DAO or as a sub DAO.
Yeah. I've thought about this a lot, because I think this funding mechanism is really interesting, right? Because we all know that one of the biggest challenges is getting money for early stage biotech startups, right? It's still a huge challenge. We now have more accelerators. We have more investors that are willing to go pre-seed and invest, but there's still a lot of great ideas and great scientists and founders out there that just can't get the access to capital. And so the idea of like trying to think through how you make it less scary for fiat investors to actually help support, because ultimately, there's a lot of money in crypto. There's a lot more money out there in fiat. And so how do we create on-ramps for something that may have been hatched in a bio-DAO, but raises conventional money? Like instead of having to do a SAFT, could you do a SAFE, right, for a spin out from one of the bio-DAOs or from VitaDAO or from Molecule? And that might be a way to basically incubate within the DAOs, with crypto investors driving the investment, and then spin it out and raise with fiat using conventional corporate structures, which fiat investors are going to feel much more comfortable with.
Totally.
Yeah, Ryan, some really good points. Maybe to just quickly touch on it on a high level. I think so. What we're already seeing maybe institutions are coming and they're looking very closely. I think this is. I mean, we were really humbled by Pfizer as a pharma company and their R&D team essentially getting deeply interested in VitaDAO. The reason behind that is twofold. On the one side, these VitaDAO managed to achieve something that big pharma companies have been trying to do for decades, which is essentially building functioning PI and academic networks that they can use to tap into for IP and essentially early on discovering novel therapeutics. They've probably collectively invested hundreds of millions, if not billions, into building those networks, and there's very few of these functioning network. And ValleyDAO managed to do that in a quite specific subfield that is not very, let's say, interesting to pharma companies yet, but managed to do that within a course of a couple of months, which was an enormous, really enormous achievement. And I think we can't thank the ValleyDAO community enough kind of for what it's already achieved in that regard. And on the other side, Pfizer was actually very specifically interested in gaining access to the IP pipeline because they're making a move into the longevity space itself, which is an enormous validation that this bio.DAO model actually functions. And now, maybe very concretely, how can they put the money in? We're working with, or like ValleyDAO is working with lawyers from Pfizer, and ValleyDAO has its own kind of different legal counsels that it works through, partially also with Molecule. But there are definitely kind of avenues to set up like special purpose vehicle structures that even allow for larger institutionals to kind of get exposure. And they're actually directly interested in governance tokens in these organizations. I think we're still at an experimental phase with that. And I think the ValleyDAO, it will kind of show over time the amount of value that kind of each organization can really kind of derive from each other. But I think that's really encouraging. So I think in a very concrete sense, I think we're probably still a little bit away from, as you said, kind of tapping into those fiat flows in a broader sense. And that's also one mission that we really want to try to facilitate at bio.xyz, is essentially enabling institutions to get exposure to the space, or essentially to bring in capital. Because ultimately, if bio.DAOs prove that they can be much more efficient, potentially that's my personal thesis, but that bio.DAOs can be potentially, I think, 10 times more capital efficient in building functioning research networks and essentially building portfolios of IPs. Which, if you took a pure bio hat, like biotech hat, it's like, how much money are we spending to create quality IP and ultimately bring that to patients to discover new therapeutics? And if DAOs are actually more capital efficient and are able to develop better therapeutics, that would be huge. And then maybe to your other question, specifically, I think what we're seeing also on the ValleyDAO side already is a first interest to turn IP NFTs that the DAO is funded into startups, where then now a biotech company or another biotech company or let's say a classic biotech investor can actually invest into that startup, which is now co-owned by the DAO. And the basis for that startup is essentially a license through an IP NFT. So those are, but I think there's still a lot of bridge building to do, but those are like two concrete examples that we're already kind of seeing.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, look, it's absolutely fascinating. I 100% agree. I think the experimentation that you and the team are doing is fascinating, because I mean, this has been a huge problem. Like one of the challenges we had with IndieBio and with some of the other companies that I backed was getting the IP out of the institutions, right? Like some universities are actually okay, some are really terrible at getting the IP out. And so that is one part of the equation. Then the next part is the actual team that runs it. And that's I know that's an experiment. It's ongoing. And so it's just, I am watching closely. And, obviously if I can help, I'm happy to help. I have kind of limited bandwidth, but I think there's something here. I'm just trying, I think like all of us, right? We're all trying to understand what is here. How can we accelerate research? How can we accelerate drug development, food development, biomaterial, like basically everything that we believe we can build with, molecular manufacturing. How can we do that and accelerate that through the merging of two of the most interesting fields on this planet, right? Crypto and bio.
Absolutely. Just want to be cognizant of everyone's time here and give kind of a last final say to each of the different bio.DAOs, so then we can all get back to building towards these incredible missions that we're working on finding solutions for. So HairDAO, I know you had your hand up, and then we'll head over to AthenaDAO after that and cycle through the rest.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And so Ryan, I kind of did just want to follow on to what you were saying about bringing in sort of fiat flows and sort of bringing this like crypto long-term R&D world to sort of more of the masses. And I know, like, for example, what we think a lot about at HairDAO is how we could leverage, the existing patient community and the current solutions that they're currently purchasing to at least help slow their hair loss, to funnel that into the longer term R&D, where they theoretically won't see sort of any results for a 5 to 10 year time horizon. And so I think there's a bunch of ways we can do that. And I think it really starts with sort of patching into the front end of a lot of these pharmacies. But just real quick, like to back up, an important dynamic that exists right now in hair loss is you have these big companies like Hims and Roman, who are selling minoxidil and they're selling finasteride. But instead of investing into, risky R&D for better solutions, they're really just pumping all of that back into marketing. So much so that it's, over 100% of their revenues are being put into marketing. And so something we'd love to do, and I think the patient community would appreciate, is sort of every time they buy minoxidil or every time they buy finasteride, if they can know for sure and if they can feel comfortable that any profit margin we're making is being funneled into long-term R&D, into providing them with better solutions. And so I think that could be a good way to get into the fiat world and not make people have to come find us within the cryptocurrency world.
I just wanted to say that Ryan would be an amazing mentor for bio.xyz because he has really all the experience in biotech, longevity, and also I know he's a big, very enthusiastic about crypto. So I hope you can dedicate some time to at least be a guest speaker, Ryan.
I would love to. I would definitely love to. So, hit me up later. I'm happy to join any way I can. Obviously, time is always the challenge, I think, for all of us, but happy to help in any way.
Really appreciate that. Just reiterating a point that Paul made earlier, we are looking for different mentors to help support the bio.xyz program. So if people have experience in different domains, especially within bio-DAOs or within a particular kind of expertise area that is helpful for bio-DAOs, please reach out to either Molecule or bio.xyz or some of the other folks kind of up on stage here, and we'd love to get you looped in just to really kind of help bring the space to that next level, and in particular the different DAOs that are part of this first cohort, laying that foundation for all the future DAOs that will join in the future as well. With that said, ValleyDAO, do you have any additional thoughts you'd like to share?
Not really. Maybe Hamza, if he's still on the call, he was eager to add something previously. But other than that, maybe one cool thing and something like will be helpful. Maybe you've already thought about this, but creating perhaps an alumni program for all of the the bio DAOs that go through bio.xyz. And to kind of like help the the new cohort that comes after them and so on. That's always really helpful, and done it in the past in other programs as well. But other than that, no. So thank you for hosting this, and it's been really insightful to talk with everyone. And Ryan, I sent you a direct message on LinkedIn. We should definitely catch up since we haven't talked since Symbio Beta earlier this year.
Yes, so part of bio.xyz is really keeping the whole community connected and having those alumni be supportive players in what the future of the entire DeSci and bio.DAO ecosystem looks like. Paul, would love to have you share some closing thoughts, any further points about bio.xyz's vision.
Let's build it. No, it's really humbling to get to work with such a bright community and really try to make this like this kind of the future that we all see, and this like I think there's so much pent up demand for change, and I think Web3 and kind of the emerging DeSci infrastructure is actually finally giving us the tools to do that. I think it was one previous speaker, maybe from HairDAO, that said we can actually do this now. And like, if any of you on the call are interested to kind of dive right in, the best way to get involved is join the bio.xyz Discord, and then particularly get involved in some of the ongoing DAOs. VitaDAO is always still, I think, a great place to kind of understand how a functioning bio-DAO is already working. But I think many of the DAOs that we have in this first cohort will kind of go through that experience over the next couple of months. And so if you're personally thinking, for example, about building a biotech DAO in the future, one of the best learning experience would be to join like an active and running DAO. And then also not active and running DAO, I think a DAO that is preparing to launch in a specific disease area, such as Athena or some of the others on the call. And then maybe as a closing thought, we really hope that bio.xyz becomes a hub of shared ideas and kind of incubation, where we look forward probably towards the end of Q4 to almost maybe potentially put out like a request for DAOs in different therapeutic areas. That would be really, really cool to bring to life. Things like diabetes come to mind. There's a big movement around long COVID. There's so many, I think, patient needs that these new communities can serve. What we've our thinking for the current cohort was really to do it still in an experimental way and actually organically support the DAOs that we've seen emerge in the DeSci ecosystem and that are kind of values aligned and vibes aligned with how we're thinking about growth. So we actually, I think many of them are still in, like, say, longevity or psychedelics are still, I think, considered fringy areas in the biotech world. But it's actually, innovation tends to happen at the fringe, and I think it tends to be the crazy ones that really push the boundaries of what is possible. And so we're really excited to actually work with, let's say, the crazier ones, and also not so much dominance yet in areas that kind of are considered traditional pharma or biotech. And I think that's actually what'll make this first cohort and this first experiment a real success. Also want to hand it to Tyler, to Vincent, to anyone else from the bio.xyz team if they want to kind of give closing thoughts.
If either of you have closing thoughts, please request to speak. Otherwise, would love to just thank everyone to ValleyDAO, AthenaDAO, HairDAO, PsyDAO for being part of this first experiment, this first cohort of bio.xyz, and being open to exploring what the future of bio-DAOs can look like and what it can look like when we really take a more coordinated and collaborative approach to sharing findings and discussion of bio-DAOs, and then just supporting one another in that journey. Today we've had a fantastic discussion, so I'd also invite you to check out the bio.xyz Discord server to continue these conversations, fleshing out these ideas, or posting them on Twitter or LinkedIn, sharing to your broader communities, tagging bio.xyz so the community here can also tune in to other people that may not yet be exposed to this space and the unique insights they may have. Tyler, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, sorry again for the internet issues. No, I just wanted to say this was a really exciting space. I hope that we get the chance to do it a bit more. And I think one of the things I would really love to see in the program, like as all these DAOs grow and develop and begin to grow their communities and their academic networks, they're all going to face a lot of similar challenges. I think one of the things that we really hope to do, particularly with bio.xyz, is actually give a platform for people to share those experiences and those challenges, and also to give insight into other community members that are trying to build biotech DAOs, what that's like, how people are navigating it. So I think it would be really nice to, if people have availability and time and are interested in sort of kind of publicly following these journeys, to consistently host these sort of spaces and allow just sort of a platform for those that are curious to understand, what are the real challenges in actually building and scaling and launching these communities. Yeah, and also a space for obviously the DAOs that are participating in the program to be able to share learnings with each other. But thanks everyone that joined, and yeah, really appreciate the interest in the space and the just the intrinsic energy of this nascent community. Really excited about what this holds for the future.
Yes, thank you everyone. Now let's get back to building.